Okay. So again, good evening to everyone. And we are starting today some lectures, shiurim, regarding Shlomo HaMelech, one of the most interesting kings and leaders in Jewish history. It looks like that the time of Shlomo HaMelech was like the peak of Jewish history. But if you are learning the Psukim deeply and reading it carefully, you can find that this era was not so simple, and it's not clear that everything was really perfect. And we will start Sefer Melachim Aleph. Sefer Melachim Aleph is, together with Sefer Divrei Hayamim, Bet, the source to understand what really happened on the time of Shlomo HaMelech. And we will start with, I will try to give you the picture of all the chapters, all the prakim who are dealing with Shlomo HaMelech. The first two prakim of Sefer Melachim is an introduction. And these two prakim are giving us a very interesting picture about what happened when the dispute who will be the king after King David was on the table. It was not simple. And very strong persons took a part in this political from one side and spiritual from other side conflict. Prakim, the chapters, Gimel, Dalet, and A, are dealing with the question how Shlomo HaMelech organized the new Israeli independent state. And it's continued, the story continue on Prakim, Tet and Yud. In between Gimel, Dalet, A, Tet and Yud, we have Prakim, Vav, Zayin, Chet, who are dealing with the question what happened when Shlomo HaMelech took on his shoulders the huge mission of building up Beit HaMikdash. And you know that the term in Hebrew sandwich is coming from English, Lord Sandwich, and we will use it now. The prakim, the chapters regarding Beit HaMikdash, is inside the sandwich. Gimel, Dalet, A, one side of the sandwich. Tet and Yud, the other side of the sandwich. They are surrounding from all sides the heart, the prakim, the chapters who are dealing with Beit HaMikdash, Vav, Zayin, Het. Perek Yud Aleph is another story. Perek Yud Aleph is telling us how this big project, the United Kingdom of the Jews, collapsed in such a quick process which amazed everyone who is learning it. Perek Yud Aleph is telling us that all the big projects of Shlomo HaMelech unfortunately collapsed down. So we have a lot of things to learn about, and we will start with the first story, which appears in the book of Melachim Aleph. And please open it, and we will read what is really written here. והמלך דוד זקן בא בימים, ויכסו בבגדים, ולא ייחם לו. What is the problem? Open your system who is in charge to give you warm air on the winter. Or take a coat, take a scarf. ויאמרו לו עבדיו, we have a solution. יבקשו לאדוני המלך נערה בתולה, ועמדה לפני המלך, ותהילו סוכנת, ושכבה בחיקך, וחם לאדוני המלך. Let's ask ourselves the question, where are we in this time? Maybe we are in Shushan Abira. This is a story regarding Yedidia, Shlomo Melech Shalom Shalo, or this is the story about Achashverosh the first. What's such an idea? This is a Jewish holy idea, how to warm yourself. And it's running on. ויבקשו נערה יפה בכל גבול ישראל, וימצאו את אבישג השונמית, ויביאו אותה למלך. You know, we're celebrating now the yellow newspapers. For them, it's really something to celebrate. But we are not reading now a newspaper, for sure not. We are not never, I hope, reading yellow newspapers. והנערה יפה עד מאוד, ותהי למלך סוכנת, ותשרתהו, והמלך לא ידע. Where are we? In the place near to Beit HaMikdash, which is coming soon, or in another place which is far away, 180 degrees from Yerushalayim. And really, you know, there is no teenagers in this shiur. But try to think about a teacher who is coming to his class in the high school, and the first thing which you need to teach is teenager students, is such a story. It's a big problem. How do you can defend it? How you are taking your students up in the Yirat Shamayim and Ahavat Torah after such a story? Someone wants to help me, please?
You don't teach them this part. You don't start with this part.
This is
like
Perek Aleph. Morai v'Rabotai,
Harav
this is
Carmel.
Perek Aleph.
In Cheder, we were never taught the story of Yehuda and Tamar.
Okay, I'm not speaking about the Cheder, but you know, if you are teaching, you are supposed to teach Sefer Melachim. and you will come to your class in an high school and you will skip this story, it will not go smooth. Somebody will ask you, dear Rabbi, why we jump on this psukim? In the Cheder, you can do it. But believe me, I made a deep search. If you are skipping in the Cheder the story regarding Yehuda and Tamar, all these children, Be'ezrat Hashem, will be soon teenagers and adults, and they will find it. And they will ask themselves, why our rabbi tried to keep it in secret?
Yeah.
And if the Torah put it on the Torah, and if the Navi put it on the Navi, it means that we are not supposed to skip it. We need to deal with this psukim and to try to understand. So now, yes, please, please, Glenn.
I think sometimes with Tanakh, a major problem is that we read it from the perspective now in the 21st century. And I'm not sure quite what the answer is, but clearly, like you said, it was common in the ancient world for melachim, for kings in all the nations, to do such things.
But David HaMelech, Ne'im Zmirot Israel, he had Ruach HaKodesh, he was a prophet according to many Rishonim and opinions.
I can't imagine with Moshe Feinstein doing such a thing. I accept.
For sure not.
But here, I think the key point is the difference between here and Achashverosh is Va'melech lo yada'a. He didn't know her. So
okay.
I'm not saying it's our morality now in the 21st century, but based on the ancient time period and the way kings behaved, already I think that shows you that the Torah king is somewhat different to the kings of the nations around him.
Okay, you have an excuse, Va'melech lo yada'a. I accept it. But try to think what happened all around the Holy Land, Eretz Israel, when plaques all over the land, all over the state, all over Eretz Israel, was up on the walls, wanted by King David. A young lady, a nice one, to keep him warm.
Gandhi.
What such a Chilul Hashem?
I agree. I have no answer.
Rami, there's another facet. I don't have an answer, but another facet is to what degree are humans, not in a negative sense, but animals, people of nature, and to what degree are we characters of intellect, of abstraction, of higher ideals, and how the two fit together. And that's one of the big issues, that and he's human, and he's
but
holy.
We are speaking
human.
about a model. David HaMelech is for us a model, a spiritual model, no doubt. He was a great man in all aspects. And the question is how this story is going with his personality. Yes, he is human. He can make mistakes.
No, I'm not speaking about mistakes. It's a bigger question.
But this is not a mistake.
I understand. I'm asking.
This is something that you are doing publicly, and your name is in the top of it.
Rabbi, except for Adam and Chava, every person was born through sexual intercourse. That's not that we have a side to us. We're physical.
This is not
beings.
a shame. We are not speaking about it. It's not something to speak in public. הכל יודעים למה כלה נכנסת לחופה, אבל יש גם המשך לזה.
צניעות. So there's a
here we are speaking about the opposite. It cannot be less public than this. This is the public למהדרין מן המהדרין. We need to understand it. And now I will give you another way how to read the psukim, with your kind permission. והמלך דוד זקן בא בימים. One of the ways, one of the most important ways of learning Tanakh is always to look for footnotes. But in every Tanakh Shalem, we do not have footnotes. Take a look at your book. No footnotes. In every edition of the Tanakh, there is no footnotes. But in every page of the Tanakh, we have many footnotes. And the footnote here is, and this is the way to put footnotes inside the Tanakh, is to use terms which appear in other places in the Tanakh and to understand the connection. And there is one more place in the Tanakh that the Tanakh is telling us that somebody is Zaken Baba Yamim. And who was this person? Avraham Avinu. Avraham Avinu. ואברהם זקן בא בימים. Avraham Avinu was one of the most moral person in the history of the world. The treatise on the name of Avraham is a big kavod.
So just to
Avraham is
my
appreciated by everyone. Somebody that we want very much to go in his footsteps. And the prophet here is telling us in a very clear way, take in consideration that David HaMelech is like Avraham Avinu. And from now, try to read the psukim in another way. ויכסו בבגדים ולא איחם לו. This is not a question of the temperature of his body. It's a question regarding his clothing. Which clothing he had? The clothes of the king. And the way to put somebody on the place to be a king is to give him the clothing which is special for the king. And no one has permission to have such clothes. And when we want to say that somebody is not a king, in many cultures, we are saying that the king have no clothes. בגדי המלך החדשים. Yes. David HaMelech is meeting now a problem with his position as a king. And Chazal is telling us this fact in a very interesting way. David made many years ago something with the bgadim of Shaul HaMelech, with the me'il of Shaul HaMelech. He cut a part of it, saying to Shaul, from now I am the king. I'm taking your royal position. This what happened when Shmuel met Shaul and told him, this is the end of your story. By making damage to his clothes. The Tanakh, the prophet, is telling us there is a problem. And the problem is very serious. Why? Because of a question of morality. It's a moral question. After what happened with Bathsheba, the big majority of the Jewish nation didn't agree that the son of David and Bathsheba will be the next king. They said, it's not our way. This is not a symbol for Jewish life. To have a shidduch is pure. To marry a Jewish girl is the holy action. But to take a wife, even by a king, in such a way, it's a shame. And David answered, no. He is my preferred son. And I owe it to his mother. I promised her. I make a vow. Your son will be the next king. But I will show to you that the majority of the people were against it. Why? Because we are an holy nation. And we believe in Kedusha, and Kiddushin and Kedusha is the same term. And it cannot be that the fruit of such a way of making a shidduch will sit on the chair of the king of the holy nation, the Jewish nation. And this chair, the name of this chair in Divrei Hayamim is Kisei Hashem. Who is the king? Who is the real king? Hashem Tzvaot u'melech hakavod tzela. And if somebody is sitting on this chair, he is representing Hashem. And how it can be that the son of David and Bathsheba will represent it? He represents in first glance the opposite way. Open Divrei Hayamim Bet. Oh, I will tell you exactly where. Okay. Try to find where Shlomo HaMelech was sitting on Kisei Hashem. It's written twice, not once. Open Divrei Hayamim Aleph, פרק כ"ט, פסוק כ"ג. דברי הימים א', פרק כ"ט, פסוק כ"ג. וישב שלמה על כיסא השם למלך תחת דוד אביו. In first glance, it's something that we cannot even imagine that it's written. But it's written. וישב שלמה על כיסא השם. But it was not simple. It was a long process to convince the Jewish nation that this is the right step.
Rabbi,
Yes,
it's interesting. Yehuda and Tamar and David himself,
yes.
with his father and his mother, also the similar thing running through the whole
I agree
line.
with you. When we are speaking about David and Bathsheba, in some meanings we are speaking also about Yehuda and Tamar. Yes. But we will speak about David and Bathsheba now. And now, after that we understood that there is a problem with David as the king, and the clothing is only a symbol for his royalty. Let's go to Pasuk Bet. ויאמרו לו עבדיו. How do you translate עבדיו to English? Please translate it to me.
Servants.
Servants, slaves.
Ministers.
Okay, ministers is not servants.
I thought doctors in this instance.
Avadav here is not the cleaners.
The officers.
The people around the king who are servants or slaves have no permission to open their mouths before the king. And if they will come with such an idea, they will be hanged in 5 minutes with a big sign, chutzpan. Avadav here are the officers, the ministers, and not regular ministers. The most important ministers around King David. And we know their names. One name is Yoav, the most powerful minister in Jewish history. He was Sar HaBitachon, he was the Ramatkal. He was somebody that everyone was afraid from him all around the Middle East. It's written. He was the most loyal friend and supporter to King David. Chazal is telling us that without the support of Yoav, it was very, very problematic for David HaMelech to be a king and to stay as a king. The second one is Eviatar HaKohen HaGadol. Somebody who was a partner of David HaMelech from very early years. He escaped from Nov Ir HaKohanim when Shaul murdered his whole family and all the city, bringing King David, on this time only David, a powerful tool which helped him a lot, the Urim Vetumim from the Mishkan. And he was escorting David all the days and the nights. Very, very loyal to him. And these two ministers, the most powerful ministers, one who was in charge for security, and the second who was in charge for spirituality of the nation, they are thinking that they need to do something which will show everyone that we cannot anymore depend on the decisions of King David. He is too old. And we cannot depend on his decisions. And they decided to really give a way to publicize that the story with Bathsheba is unforgivable. And the idea to put the son of David and Bathsheba on the chair is a bad one. It's ridiculous. You cannot say, I'm the king of the most holy place in the world, and to put as your successor the son of Bathsheba. And you know what? They had a very strong proof. How many children Bathsheba gave birth? And what happened to them? What was the name of the firstborn child of David and Bathsheba?
Baby died immediately, no?
He died immediately. He didn't have a name.
Yeah.
Unfortunately. And what everyone said when it happened? They deserve it. Hashem don't like this couple. And you know, Chazal is telling us that after this story with Bathsheba, when David HaMelech came to give Torah lectures, everywhere, somebody in every place raised his hands and asked David, King David, do you want to teach us a little piece of Torah? What is the punishment for a man who is taking the wife of another Jew? And the answer of David was very interesting. He deserved death penalty, but he is not losing his olam haba. But somebody who is מבייש את חברו ברבים, אין לו חלק לעולם הבא. But what is the meaning of such a midrash? The meaning of such a midrash means that there was a problem to explain the people what is going on. How the leader who is supposed to give them an example for morality is doing such a thing. But David HaMelech insists that Shlomo will be the king. But before we are going further, I want to show you that Shlomo HaMelech was number 5th. He was the 5th child of David and Bathsheba. And why he was the candidate? Because all the 4 ones passed away very, very young. The first, in his first week of life. And now open Shmuel Bet, פרק A, פסוק י"ד. פרק A, שמואל ב', פסוק י"ד. ואלה שמות הילודים לו בירושלים. שמוע ושובב ונתן ושלמה. Shlomo is number 4, but there is somebody, his old brother, who didn't have a name.
Where is
So
this?
he's not the 4th, he's the 5th.
So,
But who is telling us that all these children are the children of Bathsheba. So open please דברי הימים א', פרק ג', פסוק ה'. דברי הימים א', פרק ג', פסוק ה'. ואלה נולדו לו בירושלים, שמעה ושובב ונתן ושלמה. It's the same list which we found on Shmuel Bet Perek A. Everyone agree? And now it's written very clear. ארבעה לבת שוע, בת עמיאל. בת שוע בת עמיאל is Bathsheba bat Eliam. It's the same names. And all the Rishonim agree that Bathsheba bat Amiel is Bathsheba bat Eliam. So why the old brothers were not candidates to be the king? The simple answer is that they passed away. And how people explain it, that every son that Bathsheba is giving birth is passing away. Because what happened is not acceptable. So now, Avadav, as I said, the 2 strongest officers, ministers of David, is really wanting to make from him a joke. And they are saying it in a very interesting way. יבקשו לאדוני המלך נערה בתולה, ועמדה לפני המלך, ותהילו סוכנת ושכבה בחיקך. ותהילו סוכנת ושכבה בחיקך. They are using the language of the prophet. Which prophet? Which prophet said, ותהילו ושכבה בחיקך. We have here a very, very strong footnote. Who knows where it's written in another place in the Tanakh? Please open שמואל ב', פרק י"ב. נתן הנביא is telling David a story. פרק י"ב, פסוק א', שמואל ב', פרק י"ב, פסוק א'. וישלח השם את נתן אל דוד ויבוא אליו ויאמר לו. שני אנשים היו בעיר אחת, אחד עשיר ואחד רש. לעשיר היה צאן ובקר הרבה מאוד, ולרש אין קול, כי אם כבשה אחת קטנה אשר קנה, ויחיה ותגדל עמו, ועם בניו יחדיו. מפיתו תאכל, ומכוסו תשתה, ובחיקו תשכב, ותהילו כבת. ובחיקו תשכב, ותהילו כבת. These are the words of Nathan the prophet, Nathan the Navi. And the ministers are quoting him. ושכבה בחיקך, ותהילו סוכנת ושכבה בחיקך. They are telling David, King David, don't forget the criticizing which Nathan, your prophet, criticized you some years ago. And it became one of the most famous psukim in Jewish history. משל כבשת הרש. זה לא במקרה. When King David listened to their suggestion, the words of Nathan jumped out. He understood the message. The message is that it's against our values, it's against our prophets, it's against the derech of Torah to put your son for Bathsheba on Kisei Hashem. And I will give you, not this week, later, another place like this, which is referring and sending us back to Meshal Kibsat Arash. In this issue, which we are dealing now, somebody can say that these terms are used b'mikre, without kavanah. They appear only in these two places. It's like to put a strong light in front of King David and telling him, please take a look. And what was the answer of King David to such a suggestion? What was his answer?
Doesn't look like he said anything at all.
There is no an answer. They are even not waiting for an answer. And the next day, the plaques were all over. And the purpose, the target was to say, he has been. He is no relevant anymore. We don't agree in any way that the son of Bathsheba and you will be the next king, our leader. And they are sending the messengers to find the girl. How many girls volunteer? ויקבצו נערות רבות אל ירושלים, everyone wants to be the next queen. Yes or not? Not. In Shushan, it's happened. Thousands of young girls wanted to be the queen. In this case, they needed to go and to try to find ויבקשו. No one volunteered. ויבקשו, נערה יפה בכל גבול ישראל, וימצאו את אבישג השונמית, they are active, ויביאו אותה למלך. No one stood on the line. והנערה יפה מאוד. ותהי למלך סוכנת. What is סוכנת? She became a wife? She became a pilegesh? No. She worked in the office. Did she took care about warming the king? It's not written. Maybe she never visited his bedroom. And there is a strong declaration. והמלך לא ידע. There was not any relationships between King David and Abishag. No one. He even didn't touch her. And you know that every Jew, every morning, before he is starting his davening, he is asking Hashem, please, אל תביאני לידי ניסיון. It's a big mistake to ask Hashem to put you on nisayon. Even if you are strong, even if you are a tzaddik, even if you are in a very high level of spirituality, don't bring yourself to be in a nisayon. If chas v'chalila you found yourself in such a situation, you need to stand, לעמוד בניסיון. But to put yourself in such a nisayon is a stupid idea. The only way of making tshuva, a real tshuva, a deep tshuva, is to be again in the same situation and not making the sin. But it's not so simple. We are asking, אל תביאנו לידי ניסיון. So David HaMelech cannot make תשובת המשקל. But his people, his officers, his ministers gave him a golden opportunity. He is not asking it. He didn't agree. But he really found himself again in a very difficult position. And the prophet is making a strong declaration. והמלך לא ידע. He really made tshuva. The story regarding David and Bathsheba is not a story regarding a sin. The real message of this story is there is a way of tshuva. Always. And David is the symbol for making tshuva. For all the Jews in all generations to come. And tshuva is something very, very fundamental in Jewish life. Without tshuva, we have no Jewish life. Chazal is telling us, tshuva kadma la'olam. Tshuva was prepared before the first sin. השם, השם, קודם שייכתה ואחרי שייכתה. You remember it. David is the master of tshuva. And this is the message here. You cannot build up Beit HaMikdash without the power of tshuva. This is the message in this very difficult psukim. But these ministers didn't accept it. And they continued to fight against David because they didn't accept such an idea. They wanted somebody ideal, without problems, without the need of tshuva. Somebody perfect. And they had a candidate. And the candidate was available. And the candidate was another son of David, a perfect one. His name was Adoniyahu. Adoniyahu is a very, very interesting name. Hashem Elokim, Elokim Hashem. Aleph, Daled, Nun, Yud, Yud, Kei, Vav. This is Adoniyahu. The perfect name for the perfect son. But about him, we will speak Be'ezrat Hashem next time. If somebody have any questions, now is the time.
Can I ask a question?
Please.
Yeah, I really enjoyed it. The way you opened up Succes, it really made sense. It's fantastic. But in a way, I'm wondering, your original question doesn't go away because, let's say Rashi, he never had a problem with David HaMelech's behavior. You see the Rishonim.
David HaMelech is criticizing David very, very much. But Rashi also accepts the answer of tshuva.
But in this case, in the sense of taking Avishag, the Rishonim generally accept it was David HaMelech was involved.
You know, I'm giving now a shiur to Talmidei Chachamim. If I will come and I will teach you Rashi, Radak, Ralbag, Rikra, etc., don't ask me again to give you a shiur, because you can read it by yourself.
But I'm saying
my job is to give you another way of thinking.
And I love that, and I accept it. But what I'm saying is,
if you are asking me if it's written in Rashi, the answer is no. Unfortunately, I was very happy to find it in Rashi, but I didn't.
No, but from Rashi's perspective, David HaMelech's behavior was not a problem here. That's my point. That if you
in which time
of Avishag, that his most Rishonim that read it, you know, as we imagined before your wonderful shiur, they said this is how kings behave. This is this. In other words, the question.
Okay, but it's not answering the questions. What can I do? It's not my fault that they are not answering. It became my job. Baruch Hashem, I hope that I am saying something reasonable, which makes sense.
Yes, but for me, the issue of the morality of the behavior then shifts to why does no one else, for a good 2,000 years, no one had a problem with this sort of behavior?
I don't know.
The question still remains, in a sense.
The question remains, and it's left us bik'ali itgader ba. I promise you, I'm not going to teach you the psukim on the regular way which was taught all the 3,000 years. I'm apologizing.
No, I'm with you. I like what you have to say.
Rabbi,
okay.
Thank you.
Can I raise a similar question from a slightly different angle? Please. When you started off, I thought you were getting into drash. We have pshat.
No, I'm going only after the pshat.
And now I see that you're actually doing you have a shita. It's actually in a way I'm very curious actually to see the klalim, how you do this by comparison. And drash also uses it, but you're seeing now I realize you're actually not doing drash. You're doing pshuto shel nikra.
I'm trying.
And it's interesting, very interesting just to follow it and see the method. And it's thank you. And,
yeah. You're welcome.
But Rav Carmel, so
yes.
the difficult, thank you also for the shiur. The difficulty becomes then if really what Rav Carmel has shown us is that this really is the pshat. If we understand the psukim properly and we notice the footnotes, then that raises a question for how Chazal have perhaps dealt with the psukim with a pshat that maybe wasn't. In other words, it's like before you come to be a mefaresh, if you have the pshat from the way Rav Carmel has explained it, then one needs a whole different derech to explaining it.
You know, my teachers is Chazal. From where I took the idea of footnotes, from Chazal. Chazal is doing it everywhere. Halachically, the name is Zerah Shava, but we cannot make Zerah Shava for halacha from ourselves. But to learn Tanakh, this is the way that Chazal learned Tanakh. Everywhere, in every issue.
The whole midrash really is based on that intertextuality.
Yes, but the question is if you are going to the midrash or you're going to the pshat.
So you're not trying.
I want to say that the pshat is coming out much more clear when you're looking at the psukim in such a way.
I wonder if, in order to see what you're seeing, you had to be living in a time I noticed last time you spoke, I noticed that you're very big into Medinat Yisrael. Maybe you have to be living in a time when the people of Israel have a government down really on this earth in order to think along these lines, to notice these things. But I'm wondering if it has something to
I
do.
think that Gdolei Israel were the leaders were really tzaddikim. And Yoav and Eviatar were tzaddikim. But they made a mistake.
So the difference between tshuva and perfection.
Yes. We are not looking for perfect people.
It's like the idea that I think.
And I will tell you something. Today we have a big, wide literature who are trying to find perfect people. I'm not thinking, unfortunately, I will say it humbly, that this is the good way. No one is perfect. אין צדיק בארץ אשר יעשה טוב ולא יחטא. But the difference between a tzaddik and rasha is not if he did something wrong, but if he recognizes it and he is making tshuva and he is learning from it. And the difference between smart one or stupid one is not if he is making mistakes or not. The question is if he is learning from his mistakes and not repeating it. This is a sign that somebody is smart. That he recognized his mistake, he learned from it, and he continue in a better way.
It's what Mishlei says.
Yes.
That's precisely the message of Mishlei.
It's interesting, the idea.
Yeah, that's what they say there. You have to, no point in rebuking a fool, rebuke a wise man, and then you learn from it.
אל תוכח לעץ פן ישנאך, הוכח לחכם ויאבק.
It's interesting, the Rambam speaks about tshuva, you were mentioning, that he has to be in the same circumstance, but he also has to have the same physical power. I wonder
And
if
Chazal is telling us that David was in the same physical power. This is Chazal.
Okay. That's Drash.
Okay, but it's Chazal.
Yeah. That's where, so that was Tshuvat Shlema.
Yes, okay.
Yeah.
Okay, Laila Tov to everyone. Good evening.
Thank you
and
very much.
enjoy the continue learning Torah this evening.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks,
Erev
Pastor
Tov.
Maris. That's
See
very
you
beautiful.
soon
Thank
face
you.
to face.
That's right.
Oh, very soon.
Hopefully.
Thank
Bye.
you.